The 40 days of death are officially over. We made it. 49ers training camp is underway. Kyle Shanahan spoke. John Lynch spoke. George Kittle spoke. And Nick Bosa even had a little extra facial hair. We'll get into all the weirdness today on Bully Ball. What is good, everybody? Welcome to the Bully Ball podcast on the Gold Standard Podcast Network and the Fans First Sports Network. I am Rob Stats Guerrero, filling in for Jason Aponte alongside Steph Sanchez. Steph, we made it, man. We are here. The 49ers are reporting for training camp. No more reacting to list articles and all that stuff. We have real goings on in 49ers land.
Oh God, thank God, man. I really, I do it for you, Rob. I come on here and I talk about those rankings and those lists, but I'm so done with it. And yeah, I don't know if you heard, you mentioned that Bosa is live right now. I haven't seen the clip, but apparently he said I annoyed him. I don't know why do people keep asking him about me, or I need context. I need the clip. But yeah, I just saw that right before we went live. I'm like, what happened?
Ooh, interesting. I have to go check that out. I haven't seen it because it was like you said, I was trying to get ready for the start of the show. We're going to get into the reactions from what they said and all that stuff, but we got to begin with the hard news. We are a news first organization here. The most important stuff is going to be right out of the gate. Kyle Shanahan, why the hell did you grow a mustache?
In my off season because I'm out of boredom, but I got very used to it and I liked it. Because my wife did, but I knew you guys would talk about it too much, so I had to shave it yesterday.
Boo, Kyle Shanahan. Boo. You should have kept it.
Boo track.
He's conservative with field goals. He's conservative with the facial. He didn't want to come into camp with it.
I think it would have been awesome. It would have been a nice distraction from some other things that are going on and that he's being asked about. So we loved the look. He even said his wife liked the look. So what's the issue here? Why shave it? It would have just been an issue for, I think, like a day or two. Of course he'd get questions about it, but beyond that, you look like a badass all season. Why not?
Oscar Alfaro, YouTube channel member, says Steph is a better Bosa than Bosa. I totally agree, Oscar. See, love the YouTube channel member, fam. If you want to become a YouTube channel member, please do. It's less than $3 a month. It's a great way to support the show and the network. You get custom emojis, membership badges, priority comment response, and you can enter the Gold Standard College Football Dynasty League. We're doing an online Dynasty League. I'm told you can do cross-platform, but you have to turn it on if you have a PS5, or I guess maybe if you have to have an Xbox. I don't know. I'll have to go check that out, but we can do it. Go to the YouTube community page, leave your gamer tag on there, become a YouTube channel member. You do those two things, and I will get you the info so you can sign up and join us for that. All right. Wasn't a ton of hard news that came out of the press conferences, but there were a couple of things. First things first, Steph, Brandon Aiyuk showing up for camp. Are you surprised?
I'm very surprised. I think because I was expecting him to hold out completely. Now, him reporting doesn't necessarily mean he's going to participate. Obviously, at this point, we can assume he's going to hold in, just like Deebo Samuel did a couple years ago. But I wasn't even expecting Brandon Aiyuk to report. And based on what a lot of media people were saying, it was Adam Schefter, right, that said yesterday with the Pat McAfee show, he said he expects him to not report. And so I was going based off of that. I think also with the trade request coming like not too long ago as well, all of that still being fresh, all of it still feeling very tense at this moment. I definitely was not expecting him to report at all. But even if him just being in the building, I think is good. Now, I know we'll talk about it more extensively, but John Lynch, just talking about this negotiation, let's just say he used the word tough several times.
He absolutely did. A lot of questions about the negotiation, as there should have been. I just saw a tweet from John Chapman who said, I was excited about the 49ers press conference today to learn about the team. First 20 questions, all speculative on Brandon Aiyuk with a head slap. Yeah, John, that's the story. That's the biggest story with this team. Who cares about some canned response about the backup tight end on the first day of training camp when they haven't even practiced? Of course they should be asking about Brandon Aiyuk. That's the most important thing. Like, for once, the 49ers press corps actually did a good thing and got it right.
Yeah, I thought they did a good job with the line of questions. And one of the main questions that I was really wanting to have asked, and I think it was Grant that asked it, is why they seem to prefer to wait this long. That's not Grant's question verbatim, but like basically what they asked John Lynch, and John Lynch was like, I don't like to wait this long. And I call BS on that. Like, I don't know, just like the way that all of these negotiations go, like if you really truly wanted to get this done, I think you would earlier. Now, sometimes that may mean that you end up paying the player a little bit more and you're less tougher in these negotiations. But I think what they really like to do is they like to stand firm on the price that they want a player for. And that's what makes it take so long as it does. So kind of indirectly, like I get it. Maybe he doesn't like that it takes so long, but at the same time, like the 49ers do contribute to it taking as long as it does. And I hope they see their part in that. I mean, it's a trend at this point, so it's not something we can totally ignore.
He did say they started the Aiyuk talks earlier than they have with other guys. He said, we started them earlier than we have with other guys. Take that for what it's worth. We do know they were negotiating after the Super Bowl. Brandon Aiyuk said that they almost had a deal done after the Super Bowl. So the Niners did start pretty quickly when it comes to all of that. We are where we are. The market went up. The 49ers don't seem to care or want to acknowledge that in any way. And so now we wait. And I thought this was interesting because John Lynch, it was brought up to John Lynch. Hey, when it comes to Nick Bosa, you said, hell no, we're not trading him. Like, that door is closed. It was never open. So, John Lynch, are you willing to say the same thing about Brandon Aiyuk, that you won't trade him?
I did say that with Bosa, and I felt that way. But, you know, I think, again, no absolutes there. We fully intend on Brandon being a Niner moving forward. We're always open to listen to things. But like I said, we expect Brandon to be an integral part of our team like he has been, and excited about that.
He left the door open. You know,
yeah, him saying this in July, like reporting day of training camp is crazy because he did leave the door open. He said we like to listen to things. That's, I mean, that tells you, I guess, like how difficult this negotiation has been to this point.
And they are not budging. That's what it tells me, is like they have their flag in the ground and they are not moving. And it was funny, you know, at first he started to make the joke that he always makes when they talk about, will you trade this player? He started to go well, Kyle and I always talk. We always say we would trade each other if we got a good enough offer. And he stopped himself. He actually didn't go down that route. And then he said the answer that I just played, which you know what? Credit to you, John Lynch. You're finally learning. But if I were another team, I'm absolutely calling the 49ers and re-asking one more time. Are the chances remote? Yes, because what are you going to give the Niners back? But he could have slammed the door, and he left the door open, and he did it for a reason.
Maybe John Lynch heard that rumor about Devontae Adams and the Raiders being interested in
Right?
moving him for Brandon Aiyuk. I mean, that I'd be listening for that one too if that came across my table.
Here's what I want to try and check really quick right now. John Lynch is following 167 people on Twitter. Is one of them Pretty Ricky? Because maybe he did see
I
that.
mean, I doubt it. Do you think John Lynch is that active on Twitter? I mean, he
I
was
don't
using it during mass, so
Right. Look,
Christmas mass at that.
he's probably got a burner somewhere. Let's be honest. He's probably got one out there. Warlock says Brandon Aiyuk showed how weak he is. They don't care about him or his contract. They will terminate him as soon as he gets injured. Welcome back to the doghouse. I don't think Brandon Aiyuk showing up shows weakness. I think it shows he doesn't want to get fined $40,000 a day.
Yeah, and again, like I think it was surprising to me because like I think he was going to stand firm. Not that he isn't standing firm by reporting, but I think he wanted to make a statement by like not showing up. That's
Mhm.
what I thought at least, but obviously he's not interested in losing any money in the process. So I can respect that.
They did say something, Lynch and Shanahan, that if I was Brandon Ayuk, would bug me a little bit. I don't know if you caught it. And I'm so glad we're doing the show together today because anytime there's a 49ers press conference, I will come away with it seeing one thing and Steph will come away from it seeing the exact opposite thing. So this is good that we're here together for this. They asked John and Kyle about Christian McCaffrey and how important it was to get Christian McCaffrey's deal done in the offseason. Take a listen to this and you can decide for yourself.
He's a pretty good football player.
Very important.
Yeah.
You know, it's always tough with all this stuff. Just everything that the question guy is asking pertaining to contracts and stuff. And that's a whole challenge that you got to understand the market and how that works in the league, and you also got to understand what works for our team and how to build your own team with it. And there's two things that you're constantly weighing, and it's not easy to figure out. And there's never an obvious right way or wrong way. You try to figure out the best way, and it's a lot of stuff goes into that. And to be able to get Christian here with what he's done the last couple of years and what we plan on him doing for the next few years, we were really excited to get that done and felt great about it.
Okay, if I'm Brandon Aiyuk, what I heard was Christian McCaffrey's really important, so we got his deal done fast. What that tells me is they don't think I'm important, right? Well, Christian McCaffrey, pretty good football player. Well, with what we plan to do with him, there's two ways to build your football. If I'm Brandon Aiyuk, I did not love that answer.
I mean, yes, but it's Christian McCaffrey. Just like what we were talking about with Nick Bosa and how they said, no, we would absolutely not entertain any trade for Nick Bosa. It's the same thing with Christian McCaffrey. And honestly, like, had they kind of just answered that, I get that you can't just say, like, this player is better than this player, but I'm sure there's a way to dance around that, and everyone would understand objectively that, yeah, Nick Bosa and Christian McCaffrey are better players at their respective positions than Brandon Aiyuk is to the receiver position right now and to this team right now. So, I mean, I get it. I would have said the same thing. I would feel the same thing about Christian McCaffrey, about Nick Bosa over Brandon Aiyuk. And what I think it told me more is that is probably how the 49ers feel, and that's probably what's holding up this negotiation to this point. And why the 49ers are standing so firm, and why Christian McCaffrey, as soon as he asked for money, yeah, he got it right away because he is that important. Yeah, I don't think the 49ers think that Brandon Aiyuk is that important to their team in comparison.
Sorry, my daughter's down here in the studio, so to speak, and just
She's
wanted to
hyped for
remind.
training camp as well.
That's right. I just want to remind her to be a little quiet when Dad's recording. Kali Young says, "I heard it also." Robin commented in the chat. See, my thinking is spreading, Steph. It's spreading to the fandom. Finally, it's taken a few years, but well,
Like a disease.
I wasn't going to say that, but gee, thanks. It's no secret that the offense runs through Christian McCaffrey. We saw it. Christian McCaffrey had more red zone touchdowns than Debo, Ayuk, and Kittle combined last year. The offense runs through 23. But I was just surprised at the way Lynch and the way John looked at Kyle at the beginning. Pretty good player there, right? Brandon Ayuk's like, hey, guess what? So am I.
Yes, it's same but different. I mean, come on. Like, everyone knows that Christian McCaffrey is like better, more valuable to this team than Brandon Aiyuk is right now. And I think that will always be the case. And that's why, like, they also went ahead and talked about just like the long-term impact that they want Christian McCaffrey to have on this team. I'm not sold that the 49ers want Brandon Aiyuk long term at a specific price, at the price that Brandon Aiyuk wants, right? Like, I think they don't want to commit that amount of money to Brandon Aiyuk right now. I think that's why the 49ers would probably be comfortable with having him play out on the 5th-year option, so they have a larger sample size to then make a more educated decision. And then also, like, you get this season, 2024, this last window out of the way. Like, I think they really want to wait to see how this season goes to make certain decisions. And they probably wish that, the Brandon Aiyuk deal, maybe they could make a decision on that after the season. Well, technically they could, right?
Mhm.
But yeah, so I'm not sold entirely, but I don't blame them for having that reaction on Christian McCaffrey, but it did kind of feel like a slap in the face, right, at that point.
All right. So now it's spreading to you too. Good. Finally, I like this. Daza0187, YouTube channel member, says, how much of the Brandon Aiyuk signing experience is a prelude to the Brock Purdy offseason, particularly if the market heads towards 60 to 65 million per year? The Niners have made no secret of the fact that they are bracing for it. Jed York essentially told everybody before the Super Bowl last year that they're going to sign Brock Purdy, that they know what the market rate is. You might think it's high, but the market rate is the market rate. Funny how that doesn't seem to apply to wide receivers, apparently, but at least with quarterbacks, Jed York is telling you, like, they're going to pay this guy. So I think that they are factoring that in, but you also, like, you should have seen this coming. You know, the wide receivers that were up for contracts. So it's not a shock that, like, that you can't be caught off guard by the market going up.
Yeah, I think they definitely are preparing and thinking ahead on what this Brock Purdy deal might look like, at least like a large range that you can sort of look at. I mean, we already have the Trevor Lawrence deal that happened this offseason. Jordan Love, I think, will probably get done before the season begins or shortly thereafter. And I think that's, of course, going to have a lot of implications on Brock Purdy's deal as well. So just I guess from their perspective, you've already waited this long to get this Brandon Aiyuk deal done. You might as well wait a little bit longer to see what more information you can get about other quarterback deals, at least the Jordan Love one, because I think that's one that could be pretty comparable, and that's going to be the new floor for Brock Purdy. And
Yep.
I think you don't want to wait too much long after that. You definitely don't want more quarterbacks coming into the picture after that one gets done, to start negotiating with Brock Purdy. At least that's the way I see it. But yeah, I mean, I think the 49ers getting more information as to what to expect for next season or Brock Purdy's deal is going to either help them or hurt them in terms of being able to get Brandon Aiyuk done. But that's why I think like they feel hesitant to commit to anything to not Brock Purdy, Brandon Aiyuk
Brandon Aiyuk.
right now for that reason, I think.
If I'm a 49ers player, I would have my eyes on that Brock Purdy contract, because I will bet you all the money in my pockets that he will have a contract before July. I bet you they sign Brock Purdy right quick and in a hurry. And
Next
if I
off
were,
season, you're saying.
yes. And if I was all the other vets on that team, I'd be like, oh, interesting. Didn't have to fight and claw tooth and nail to get that deal done. Now we're a long way from that. I get that. But I bet you, Steph, when it comes time, I bet they sign him hella quick.
Rob, it better be before July. Like it better be before the draft, quite honestly. Like
Yes.
I want this is one the normal strategy I don't think should work. But then again, I said that about Nick Bosa as well. I mean, but Nick Bosa was looking to be paid as the highest paid quarterback at the time. I think Brock Purdy is going to be close to that, but like I think you've already made it clear that you want to pay Brock Purdy. And so it's one of those things where like I don't think the team has as much leverage in the situation as they have with, Brandon Aiyuk, for example, in this case. So yeah, I think the earlier the better. And I don't know if you caught this to kind of like pivot a little bit. I don't know if you saw Diamador Lenore was on with Kay Adams this morning,
I
and
did.
he was asked about how his negotiations are going, and he actually said like, "Hey, like yeah, they're going well," which I was surprised to hear that he's already having those conversations, because I kind of figured that they would wait till the end of 2024, see how it plays out, to see which corner between Lenore and Mooney Ward they would, commit to long term. Does that give you the sense that they've like already made that decision on Lenore? And again, it also tells us that they're not always looking to wait on these deals. Maybe getting it done early for Brock Purdy isn't so crazy of an idea.
Well, remember, Dre Greenlaw, like out of the blue, got a new. Nobody was even talking about that. I think if you're willing to talk at the number the Niners want you at, I think they can move very quickly. And I think that's what happened with Greenlaw, and maybe that's what's happening with Lenore. I have no idea. And look, part of this too is the player. If the 49ers come to you with an offer that maybe is low in terms of the market rate, but is 10 times what you're making, especially Diamondor Lenore as what, a 5th round pick, right? They present a deal out there that's, I don't know what the market for corners is. I know the Jags just re-signed a corner. If it's $20 million a year, whatever it is, even if you could get more, when somebody has $20 million on the table in front of you and you've been making, 6 figures, and all of a sudden you get another comma in that salary, like that's a big, some guys may be like, good, I'm good with that. Like, let's take it. Right. So maybe they are having those conversations. I hope they are. I hope it's good. And that would be phenomenal if they could get that deal done. Warlock says, any chance they paid Brandon Aiyuk after our 3 injury-prone receivers get injured? Debo and Kittle get injured every year. Ricky's our new injury-prone receiver. So thank you for transitioning me, Warlock, into the other news of camp, which is Ricky Pearsall is going to start on the non-football injury list. He has an injured hamstring, which he hurt away from the team facility. We were told it wasn't serious by the crack 49ers reporting staff, but now we find out, Steph, he's going to miss at least the first block of training camp, which is at least the first 4 practices. Not how you want to start.
Serious. That's not serious, though, Rob.
He's going to miss at least. They also said they're not going to rush.
That's not serious, though. When I think of serious, like how long of a timeline do you give serious? Because I give it like multiple weeks, at least a month.
Here's what worries me. When you miss camp, especially with this team, you fall behind. How many times have we heard Shanahan talk about, whether it was Danny Gray or Drake Jackson or anybody, like, hey, Aaron Banks, he was injured early in camp, and he never really caught up. And when you get injured, you fall behind. And like, I gotta say, that worries me a little bit. I hope he comes back fast, but the fact that he's going to miss at least the first block of training camp and then maybe be able to come back for the second one, my expectations for Ricky Pearsall contributing early kind of went down a little bit today.
Yeah, I mean, I think they'll ease him in even after those 4, if he's fine. But yeah, I mean, obviously it isn't ideal, Rob. I mean, as long as he's back for training camp at all, I would feel good about it. I think I saw enough from the reporting out of like OTAs, out of rookie minicamp, to feel like Ricky Pearsall was ahead of the curve, at least compared to other rookies, and so even if he misses those first 4 practices, I think he'll be all right. That being said, like, yes, I was looking at Ricky Pearsall to be a contributor at some point this season, but not like when the season started anyway. So, I'm not too worried about it, I guess, at this point in time.
Clutch Gene Sports, shout out to Clutch Gene Sports. I know there's, by the way, have also pointed out in the chat that the hamstring, he missed when the rookies reported last week, he's been missing. So it's not just only the 4 practices. Ricky Pearsall has been missing some time. I don't love it. I don't, and especially because we don't know how this holdout will affect Brandon Aiyuk, assuming he comes back at some point. Deebo Samuel does always get hurt. George Kittle does always get hurt. Juwan Jennings, like, I like Juwan Jennings, but I don't want him thrust into any sort of major role. Ricky Pearsall was supposed to kind of be the wide receiver parachute, right? Like, okay, even if those guys miss time, like, hey, we'll get to see a first-round pick at receiver, and maybe he can do some things. And now that seems a little less assured, at least to me. But I do have a tendency to overreact, I admit.
The truth is probably somewhere in the middle, Rob, in all of this. And yeah, I mean, I think there is cause for concern, or at least to be like cautious, right? Like, be cautiously optimistic about it. The thing with hamstrings is they do tend to be reoccurring, right? Especially if you try to come back too soon. So I do expect the 49ers to take it slow with him and make sure he's at 100% when he does return. But yeah, it's obviously something we're gonna have to keep an eye on. But yeah, the having it be called not serious, that already made me feel better, because serious, I'm like, okay, that could be season ending. You could miss a large part of the season. As of right now, like, it doesn't seem to be that way.
I don't trust the 49ers staff as far as I could throw them. I absolutely don't. They say it's not serious. We'll see. That's all I'm saying. I don't trust it. You know, we had no 49ers beat writer talk about the Brandon Aiyuk trade request. And I was doing a show with Grant and I called him out on it and all the 49ers beat guys. Mike Garafolo's breaking that news from the golf course. No 49ers person had that news. Yet Ricky Pearsall gets placed on the NFL injury list, and 2 minutes later, we got guys on the 49ers beat saying, oh, it's not serious. It's not serious. So it's like, oh, you can get information when you want to get information. Interesting. Perhaps maybe try and do that a little more instead of like Grant did with me and others on the 49ers beat have done. I believe Arrows did this too. Throw up your hands and say, oh, well, NFL media gets fed all the stories. Maybe, I don't know, try.
Yeah, they definitely don't get fed all the stories. And I mean, wasn't it because it was on the transaction wire or like an official like NFL wire of some sort,
Yep.
like communication, that's why he caught wind of it?
Yeah, I mean, that's what happened was that they had to report it like it was a transaction with the league. That's how that news came out.
Yeah.
They couldn't even get the customary 5-minute heads up like a lot of national
Yeah.
insiders get.
Yeah, I guess I see your point on that one. Yeah.
I mean, I know it's par for the course with this crew. It's fine, but you know, just throw up your hands. Oh, nothing we can do.
I mean,
All
it's
right.
not often that the 49ers like volunteer information. I was surprised that they even said what the injury was today. I thought they were just going to say, oh yeah, it's just some injury that happened outside of our facility. He's on NFI. It's going to maybe take a week or two more. Like, I thought it was going to be like so vague, but
Typical
at least we
Kyle.
got what the injury is.
Kyle being like, "Oh, I don't know about the injuries. Oh, I don't know." People are mad at me in the chat. They're cranky. Sorry, I'm being too negative for you guys. Buckle up. Let me just tell you, when you lose 2 Super Bowls to Patrick Mahomes, buckle up. And by the way, I'm the guy all offseason that's been talking about how much of a golden era this is for 49ers football. This is how it goes with me, Steph. I get frustrated with them during the offseason for how they run things and how they operate. But then when they're actually playing football, I'm the guy talking about how damn good they are. And everybody else I feel like is negative because they haven't won the Super Bowl.
It's like you get 2 sides of the coin with Rob at all times, or at any given time. You just don't know which one you're gonna get. I literally flip a coin before going live with Rob, and I'm like, which one am I gonna get today?
I do the same thing with Steph, but it's like, how good is the hair going to be? Is it going to be like immaculate, or is she going to hide it under a hat?
By the way, can we talk about Rob's hair today? Because he was like, I still have beach hair, and I'm like, Rob, it looks great. Like, look at the volume. Look at the volume.
It does have volume. Yeah, I snuck in one last vacation to Rhode Island, and I go to Rhode Island every year, and I was literally on the beach, and I got beach hair right now, but you know, look, I'm a grinder. We come back, we throw on the live broadcast, and we keep rolling. So the Pearsall injury, not good. The other injury news, Drake Jackson, Dre Greenlaw, and Talanoa Hufanga are also starting camp on the PUP list. They can be moved off the PUP list at any time. I don't expect that to happen with Dre Greenlaw because he tore his Achilles in the Super Bowl. Hufanga said he's going to try and be ready. His goal was to be ready for week 1, so who knows how much we'll see him in training camp. And Drake Jackson, honestly, I don't really care because Drake Jackson is nothing. He's like, we know what Drake Jackson is.
That is so mean.
As a player, not as a human being. He has value as a human being. As a player, he's a non-contributor to the 49ers.
Yeah, thus far. And yeah, it's been very unfortunate for him because We've all been saying this is a really important year. There's going to be a really important camp for him to kind of prove his worth on the 53, and he has yet to be able to show anything. So this is feeling very similar to the Danny Gray trajectory of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. Danny Gray, is he even still on the team? Does anyone know I've never even seen Danny Gray in a 49er uniform except catching one pass from Trey Lance in the preseason. It's like the only Danny Gray thing I can even remember.
Poor Danny Gray, man.
What a time. What a time. What about the vibes after that? Like Trey throws that long touchdown pass to Danny Gray against the Packers, and then they took him out of the and you were like, oh yeah.
The vibes were good, but that's just proof the vibes can lie. They can lie.
What are the vibes, do you think, with this team right now? Like Nick Bosa, I'm just seeing, said when they lost the Super Bowl, he did wonder, like, I don't think we'll ever be, I wonder if we'll ever be good enough to win a Super Bowl. And he said that went away pretty quickly, which is a natural reaction after the game. But they are coming off a Super Bowl loss. We know the history with teams coming off a Super Bowl loss and the hangover and all that stuff. What do you think the vibes are with this team right now?
Yeah, I think that's something I was worried about, right? Like after losing, this last Super Bowl, because there's quite a few of, the counters, the counter pieces of this offense and defense that went to both Super Bowls and lost at both. So like that's a different burden to carry, that is heavy.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was worried about how those guys were going to take it. Early in the offseason, George Kittle just kind of seemed like a shell of himself. Like when he was in interviews and talking about the Super Bowl, like I didn't see a lot of optimism for him. And it scared me because I'm like, dude, this is the most optimistic guy we have. And if he's not like ready and excited for this season, like I don't have a lot of faith, right, that they can get over that mental hurdle. But I think the closer that we've gotten to it, and mind you, for George Kittle, it could have also been the fact that he can't even like practice much of the off season, right? Because he's rehabbing. So that's probably a different type of mental hurdle on top of everything else. But now I'm seeing like that optimism come back from some of these players. I think like you just have to practice. You have to be able to like play football again and it be fresh, right? Like you got to start fresh over and feel good about what's starting over. And then, the past kind of washes itself away a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think as they continue on, it's going to get a little bit easier to not look at the rear view mirror and just look at what's ahead and get excited about what's ahead, right? It's hard to get excited right now because you don't know. you don't really know what's ahead. Training camp, I think, is where that starts. You start to see like how are these new pieces coming together, right? A lot of new guys on the defensive line. Okay, like we'll know how Nick Bosa feels about the group that he's playing alongside. I think after training camp, and if he feels good about that, then that's just one position group. I'm talking about every position group, I think, is going to have to go through that and feel good about what's going forward to kind of, get that monkey off of their back and just focus on this season. Because like they've been through this before. Like it's different, obviously, losing in the NFC Championship game and losing in a Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. But like I think the process of getting over it is similar, right?
Kyle talked about, because they asked him, like, what's the difference in this offseason versus the last time you were coming off a Super Bowl loss in 2019? And he was like, this one felt shorter because don't forget, COVID happened. And so that like time stopped, it felt like. So to Kyle, he was saying like it felt much, much longer. With this time, everything felt shorter because obviously you're playing longer into the season than anybody else except the other team in the Super Bowl. So you have less time to recover physically. You have less time to recover mentally, especially for the coaches. Like, you got to process that quick. And then there's the combine and free agency and all that stuff. So, you're working on a different timeline than all but one other team in the league. So I thought that was really interesting. But like you were saying, at this point now, July 23rd, even if you won the Super Bowl, this part would be the same. Like training camp would still start today. And, I know there is a Super Bowl hangover and all that stuff, but like, regardless of what happened last year, now like you're starting it up again. They were always going to play this season. If the Niners won the Super Bowl, we weren't just going to like walk off into the sunset and cancel the year. So hopefully there's a feeling like you were saying of like, all right, back to it, back to the grind, start this thing up again.
Yeah. And I mean, I think there's an argument that the Super Bowl hangover can be tougher on the team that wins than the team that loses. Um, I don't think I could say that about the Chiefs, but I think in more cases than not, you can probably make that argument. Just because like once you win it and you come back, it's like, okay, we already did it. Like, what are we trying to do here? So at least the 49ers still have that carrot in front of them of like something they haven't attained before and still trying to get that.
Did you see Kyle throw a little shade to Grant Cohn during the press conference?
I did see that, and I think he was so dead serious, and I
Oh,
think he
he
let
was.
off a little chuckle after that just to kind of soften the blow a little bit, but he was dead serious.
Yeah, I'll be doing a show with Grant tomorrow. I'm going to have that clip cut up. Grant said, Kyle, you told us XYZ. And Kyle was like, well, knowing you, I'm not sure I actually said that, which I was like, boom, okay, here we go. Throwing a right cross right out of the gate. The first press conference at training camp. Well done, Kyle Shanahan. Always
We are so
appreciate that.
back.
Yeah, right.
So
Exactly.
back.
We are so back. I totally forgot what I was going to say because I just saw that thing about Grant Cohn getting the shade thrown at him. Apparently, Amari Cooper got $5 million, a $5 million increase in incentives in his contract, and the Browns are like fully guaranteeing the rest of it. And so a lot of people are wondering, like, can you do that with Aiyuk? I don't know what the incentives are, but I know the 5th-year option is fully guaranteed already. So I'm not quite sure the Niners have that same thing in their back pocket.
Well, I still need to. I did see the thing about Amari Cooper. I just need to read up a little bit more on it to really understand what they did. But I did see a couple people actually just yesterday, and I talked about it on my pod, bring this up of like an alternative solution. The 49ers can hypothetically offer Brandon Aiyuk a 1-year deal. That would obviously pay him more than what the 5th-year option would, maybe a little more guarantees there, obviously, and that would incentivize him to report, which he did. So maybe they don't feel like they need to do this, but he'd obviously play out the season, be happier, right? Like he'd get a good portion of money this year, bet on himself for this year, and then they can regroup after the season ends and see what they want to do at that point. But I think like that's one option that I think buys both sides some time and keeps tensions at bay for 2024. Because I think if you let this go into the season, you run the risk of there being tensions, and that could build in the locker room, and that's one thing you definitely don't want on a season that's like very much win now in this window here, right? So that's the risk that the 49ers are running here. And so that would alleviate that, in my opinion. And so in my opinion, what the Browns did seems to be a little similar to that.
Well, and it would be a nice kind of smoothing out of things, right? Like George Kittle brought up again the Richard Sherman saying about contract talks, how contract talks are like braces. It sucks while you have them, but the second you get them off, it's like you forget you ever had them. First of all, as somebody that had braces, that is bogus. I hated braces. It sucked when I had them. I wish I never had them. And you do remember it, but the BA has made no secret of the fact that he has taken this negotiation personally. It would be a nice sign for the 49ers, who, by the way, have like $30 million in cap space right now, if they said, look, why don't we do a 1-year deal, $27 million, right? How about that? And we can figure it out later. And then Brandon Aiyuk might not want that, but that would be basically double what he was slated to make this season, more or less. Can you really get that upset about it? And maybe it smooths things over and helps a little. Because I do think, like Brandon Aiyuk has said, he's taking it personally. And this stuff hurts when people are talking about your value.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's an option that if this goes any further, like say we're getting close to week 1 and it still feels like things are very far apart, I mean, Why not extend that olive branch, right?
It never hurts. Like what's the harm, you know?
Yeah.
So I hope it gets done. Kittle also said, by the way, that he lost 30 pounds after his core muscle surgery, and he was all the way down to about 214 to, that range because he couldn't do anything. And now supposedly he says he's gained it all back. He's back up to about 240 to 243. But that is wild to lose that much muscle in one off season just from having that core muscle surgery. That's a big deal.
Yeah, it definitely is. And he said his wife kind of made him feel like he was unrecognizable. Which yeah, I mean he probably was at that point. And I mean everyone's body is different. And Kittle said that he's found that when he doesn't work out, he has a hard time keeping on weight. I guess most of his weight is muscle. Good for him. But yeah, it's good to know that he's able to get that back, and now is at his playing weight. But yeah, that's a big adjustment to make in the off season. That's why I'm saying, like, dude, I think the off season was particularly rough for George Kittle, for not just the Super Bowl loss, but just rehabbing and dealing with your body changing that drastically. But glad he's back, and like I said, he seems to be in much better spirits once again.
Kenny says, I call BS. And if it's not BS, that's worrisome. You're not putting on 30 pounds of good weight in a few months. I don't know when George Kittle had the surgery and when he dropped the 15 pounds. And I don't know how long it's taken him to put the 15 pounds back on. I have no idea. I can't speak to that. He says he's back up to 240. Even if he's not and he's lying, he still has many weeks to get back up to his playing weight. So I don't doubt that he will be able to do it. And, as much as it stinks that he lost time working out, for a guy that is as physical as George is and that gets banged up as much as George does, it might not be the worst thing in the world that his body got a little more recovery time.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, he was literally talking about it earlier in the off season, how like hurting his shoulder. He had a shoulder injury, I think, when he was like way younger. He
Yeah, he
wasn't
tore his
able to like
labrum.
throw a football, right? And he said that. And then after recovering from this past shoulder injury, he was able to throw a football again. Isn't
Hmm.
that crazy? Like how your body can like do something like that after getting hurt a second time. Like, oh, you recover even more. So yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily a bad thing that he went through this rehab. Like you said, he might come back even stronger and healthier than he was before.
Let's hope. Let's make one last
Yeah,
run at this day.
we need that. We need that.
Please, like, oh, Cynthia in the chat says, hell, I can gain 10 pounds in 7 days. Well done.
Yeah,
Got to
I
appreciate that.
know that feeling.
I've been 140 pounds since college.
Jesus Christ.
I know.
Yeah, you're like a stick figure, man.
I know. It's fantastic. And I eat whatever the hell I want too. That's the best part. The only thing, this is so weird. Yes, I am. The only thing that ever made me gain weight, and I don't know how or why, Dunkin' Donuts hot chocolate. When I worked at NBC, there was a Dunkin' Donuts in the NBC headquarters. So every day after Pro Football Talk, I would go to the Dunkin' Donuts, get a little Dunkin' Donuts hot chocolate, and finish out the rest of my day. All of a sudden, I started gaining weight, 5 pounds, 10 pounds. I'm like, what is going on? And the only thing I changed was the friggin' hot chocolate. I stopped drinking them. Weight came right off.
That's so weird. There must have been something else in that hot chocolate.
I don't know what's in there. Definitely a weird situation. That is a story that I did not think I was going to be telling on today's show, but you never know. So that was basically it in terms of news from the press conference. It was pretty much Aiyuk, the injured guys, and that's kind of it. And those are the biggest things with the 49ers right now. I'm sure we're going to hear from plenty of players as training camp goes on. We're going to hear from Kyle and John. By the way, for people asking, 49ers in 5 will be back. I'm going to do it tonight. Training camp is here. So 49ers in 5 will be back. It'll be waiting for you tomorrow morning. So all you asking, we made it. We're here. We are through the crap. Are you still going to do your sparkling water reviews, Steph?
No, the sparkling water one is done because, like, for one, I have a crazy amount of sparkling water like packs at home right now. Like I don't think I can convince myself to get more at this point. And so I've tried all the ones that I've tried, all right? Now I still have a few Olipop cans, and that's like a if you don't know what Olipop is, it's like this probiotic soda thing. It's like, all the
Mm.
rage now these days. There's Poppy and then there's Olipop. Right. So those both are like probiotic sodas, healthier sodas, right? And so I'm still doing the Olipop taste ratings until I run out. I have like two more. So I'm gonna do one today, I'm gonna do one tomorrow, and then I leave for camp. So it's perfect. Yeah.
That's right. So what days are you going to be at camp?
I leave for camp Wednesday night, so I'll be there for the first practice on Thursday. I still have a few tickets that I need to get. I wasn't able to get all of them. This year was just absolutely nuts as far as the tickets go. Ticketmaster sucks. But
Well, there
yeah,
goes our
so
Ticketmaster sponsorship.
yeah, right. So I still have a few more tickets that I need to get, but I'm gonna be there for the entirety of like the 2 weeks of camp. Can I just say what dates I need in case anyone watching has an extra ticket
Yeah,
to,
throw it out there.
okay, so I need 7/26, so July 26th, July 29, August 2nd, August 3rd, and August 4th. So I have 5 tickets and I need 5 tickets. So we'll see. Thank you at anyone that has an extra ticket to spare.
If you can help Steph out, we promise we'll make it worth your while. We're going to have reports from training camp to get everything, get as much news as possible for you. We got this super chat from Daza. Do you foresee any change in the relationship between the players and Kyle this year? A number of them seem to insinuate unhappiness with Kyle after the Super Bowl. Who? Because I don't remember that, because I definitely would have picked up on it.
I mean, maybe they're talking about the overtime rules stuff. I don't know.
But I don't remember anyone saying they were unhappy with Shanahan. I know Juice, who, by the way, just loves to talk. He gave a whole little spiel to Mike Silver. Mike Silver wrote a whole puff piece about Kyle Juszczyk and how hurt he was that the 49ers asked him to take a pay cut and how he's still valuable. And he's mad at PFF because they gave him bad grade. Give me a break, Kyle. Shut up. You are a fullback. My God. You were off the field for more plays than you were on the field last year. But I don't remember any player specifically saying anything negative about Kyle.
No, not about Kyle. But yeah, I mean, just insinuating as Dazza says. But I didn't get that sense either. I think there was just a lot of not even like finger pointing. I think there was a lot of just what the hell happened after the Super Bowl, and I think that's a natural feeling. So I think they're fine now. I think everyone's fine.
And it could have been a situation where they were questioning him. And I've brought that up to Grant because he's brought up that possibility, and he likes to ding Kyle. And I've said, we haven't seen a sniff of that. Not even a hint of it. Not even like a subtweet about Kyle or anything. The coin toss situation, nobody has said anything. And if there's one thing that you have to give Kyle Shanahan credit for, he has always had this locker room united. Even when they were terrible in 2017 and they were losing. When they won that first game against, I think it was the Giants, they erupted like they won the Super Bowl. He has always been able to do that. And that's not a given. The Seahawks locker room fractured after they lost that Super Bowl to the Patriots. It became the defense against Russ, and there was all that, and Seattle just had to start shipping guys off. And we haven't seen any hint of that with the 49ers.
Yeah, I mean, respect for keeping this place united like it has been. I think that's just part of the culture that's been built, and I mean, I think talking about the Super Bowl, I think a lot of the issues in that game were execution issues, and that falls on the players. I think I think players are going to blame themselves before they would blame Kyle for those. So.
You know who I kind of want to hear from, because I don't remember hearing from him after the Super Bowl? Samuel Womack. Hey, Samuel, what happened on that punt return? Has anybody even spoken with him? I know it's like whatever. It doesn't matter now that, but like, I don't know. I'd be interested to hear it. Like, because that to me was one of the swing points of the game. The Chiefs offense was doing nothing until that point.
Yeah. It was a turning point. And like, I think that's one of those plays that we forget about, because when we often think about losing games, you think about the fourth quarter, last few minutes for some reason, but there's so many things that like led to it or just didn't help. Christian McCaffrey fumble, Jake Moody missing a field goal, the return. Yeah, there's a number of things that.
Wait a minute. Hold on. I think I screwed it up. It was Darrell Luter. Was it Darrell Luter or Womack?
I think it was Luter.
I think I got that wrong. My apologies. Sorry about that. It was Darrell Luter Jr. Thank you, chat, for correcting me. And he did say it was a sucky feeling. It kind of makes you feel like it was all on you. Well, I don't want to say it was all on you, but
you're like, well,
I apologize to you, Sam Womack. My bad. Did not mean to put that on you. That's my mistake. That's not fair. You had no part of it, so it shouldn't be your fault. Darrell Luter. Okay. Well, who knows who it's going to be next year, the next defeat. But I'm ready to be hurt again, Steph. I am ready.
I am so ready to have my heart broken.
Yep. Like I was
every time.
Not feeling it for a large part of the off season, but now like I'm totally on board. Completely.
This is a toxic relationship, Rob.
Yes, because 9 times out of 10, they're going to do nothing but hurt you, and they will never love you back. I am totally down with that. I agree completely. And this is during the good times. Imagine when the team sucks again.
Then it'll really be toxic.
Yeah. Anyway, all right, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. Steph, thanks for letting me pinch hit on your show. I appreciate it. And for doing this on very short notice, because I know I didn't think I was going to get back from vacation in time. But once Kyle and John had the press conference, I packed the family up into the car and we hauled ass back to Connecticut. So thank you for having me. And let's go. We're back, baby.
Let's go. Peace.